Hello and welcome back to the Sussex Studio Experience Podcast. We had some challenges today with technology, and I just wanted to come back on and finish the broadcast that I started. So I will begin again. So the picture on your screen, if you look at it, you see Marion Robinson, 1937 to 2021. So we've been dealing with loss today. And so for me personally, when I think about this loss, I think about my own mother. And I also make parallels to Doria Ragland, who is nowhere near being gone. And yet she has a similar impact in my mind. A similar impact to Michelle Obama's mother, Marion Robinson. For those of us who are in the squad, some of us were once in Michelle's squad, if you will, and we were acting as a kind of protection for Michelle during the time that she was in the White House, when people were coming for her in much the same way as they are currently coming for our Duchess. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Doria Ragland for raising an incredible daughter, and I wanted to also give a posthumous shout out to Miss Marion Robinson, who was there for her kiddos for their entire lives. And so I think today is the first day that Michelle has to walk in this world for a complete 24 hours without the benefit of having her mom around. And I'm sure that has to be challenging. I know it's challenging because I have that as a personal experience in my own life. I lost my mother a few years ago. And when I look at the parenting of Doria Ragland, at least what I see parallels to Marion Robinson. And so the parallels, the beauty, the strength, the standing by their child's side through it all, right? Through it all. There's that old gospel song. If you're familiar with that, I'm sure you can listen to it in your head. Through it all, I've learned to trust, right? So without Marion Robinson beside Michelle, I can't imagine what her journey would have been like in the White House. Ms. Robinson moved in with Michelle and Barack and the daughters hesitantly because she wanted them to have their lives, and she also wanted to support her child and her grandchildren throughout this really challenging journey. And we see a parallel relationship in Doria's relationship with Meghan. We see her standing close by her child, not hovering, but being quiet and regal in the background, loving her baby and taking care of her grandkids so that Meghan and Harry can live the kind of life that they've chosen to live. So we started this podcast earlier today, and we had some technical difficulties, so I just wanted to come on and just finish a bit of what I started. So for some of you who felt like I left you hanging, that was not intentional. And I also wanted to give other podcasters a chance to get out there and do what they do. So here we go. I always have a kind of plan for the podcast. So I'll do that. I'll go to what my plan was. And I also have some questions for you guys. I really want to get into doing more interviews, if you will. And I have a couple of people that I'd love to interview. One is a person that I know very well, who is a Black American female who does not like our Duchess. And I wanted to sort of get into her psyche and figure out what happened, when that happened. And we've had conversations around this. And I also wanted to get your input, your feedback, as you listen to us navigate this conversation. So I will say again, welcome to the Sussex Studio Experience Podcast, where we explore the inspiring stories and traditions that shape our world. Today, we dedicate this episode to two incredible women who've left an indelible mark on the lives of their daughters and on the world. Marion Robinson and Doria Ragland. Yay! Yay! As we honor Ms. Ragland's memory, we delve into the rich tradition of mothers who stand as pillars of strength and support for their families. Marion Robinson and Doria Ragland are exemplary figures of resilience and dedication. Their experiences, though unique, intersect in their unwavering support for their daughters, Michelle Obama and Princess Duchess Meghan Markle, respectively. So when Michelle moved into the White House, her mother Marion played a pivotal role in ensuring a smooth transition. She was known affectionately as First Granny. Marion moved into the White House to provide stability and support for her granddaughters, Malia and Sasha Obama. Marion's presence was not only about babysitting, it was about maintaining a sense of normalcy and grounding for the Obama family amidst the high-pressure environment of the presidency. So what I recall from when Ms. Robinson was moving into the White House, she wanted for her daughter to be able to maintain her relationship with her husband and her kids, and she didn't want to seem like a bother. So the White House is quite large, and she moved into an apartment in the White House. And in said apartment, she was able to care for the girls when Michelle and President Obama had engagements. And so a parallel relationship that I see happens to be the relationship between Doria Ragland, hello everyone, and her daughter Meghan. Meghan is an only child. Michelle is not. She has a brother, Craig Robinson, and Michelle always affectionately says that Craig is her mom's favorite. So it's really wonderful. When Michelle went to Princeton, Craig got in first, and she said, if he can get in, I know I can get in. And she did. So anyway, we saw a similar relationship play out between Meghan, or we're witnessing today a similar relationship play out in our Princess Duchess's relationship with her own mother. So I think it's a wonderful thing. So that this tradition of mothers and grandmothers stepping in to raise the next generation is deeply rooted in lots of cultures, right? This one is rooted in African American culture for specific reasons. Historically, African American families have relied on extended family networks to provide support, a practice that can be traced back to the times of enslavement. And I would say before that, I'm sure it was happening before we got here, because we often go back to enslavement as if there was no history before enslavement. So, they don't say it takes a village for no reason. So it can be traced back, let's say, for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And it was based on community bonds with the respect to it takes a village. And so that tradition continued. And we see that in a lot of other cultures inside of this country today. So I would say that the role of mothers and grandmothers is vital in most communities, specifically in marginalized communities. And our mothers are often the glue that holds our families together by providing emotional and practical support. This tradition is a testament to the resilience and solidarity within our community, where familial bonds are strengthened through shared responsibilities and mutual care. I see you guys. So Marion Robinson, Michelle's mom, was born and raised in Chicago. Did you guys know that Michelle was best friends with Jesse Jackson's daughter? That's just a fun fact. So born and raised in Chicago, worked as a secretary for Spiegel Catalog. How many of us remember the Spiegel Catalog? Hi Carla. Hey, go taste and see. Hey, Vonzola. So the Spiegel catalog coming into some of our homes, when it came into my home with my mother, we could look, but she did not purchase. We got our things specifically from Penny's and May Company / O'Neill's. And like if it was super expensive, then we might go to Macy's after O'Neill's closed. So anyway, Marion's quiet strength, let me go back. Her dedication to her family was evident in the way she supported her daughter Michelle, even as she ascended to the role of First Lady in the United States. Marion's quiet strength and wisdom were a source of inspiration for Michelle and other countless others who observed her journey. So me watching her journey, I was super excited to watch the first grandma. And I was a little bit jealous because I missed mine, right? Watching these beautiful girls grow up in a multi-generational home. And so I also want to send out a prayer and our thoughts to the girls because, you know, I know Michelle is missing her mom and Craig is missing his mom. And when we suffer grief, especially as young children, it can be particularly harsh, especially our first major grief. So I want to send out a special prayer to the Obama girls on the loss of their grandma, because I feel that too. So Doria Ragland is a social worker and yoga instructor, and also has worked in therapy. And she's always been a source of strength for her daughter Meghan. Despite facing challenges as a single mom, you know, she divorced from Meghan's dad when Meghan was about 2 years old. So she raised Meghan with a sense of compassion and a strong moral compass. Her influence is evident in Meghan's advocacy for social justice and in her commitment to making a difference. And we see that, and that's part of the reason that we are here as members of the squad. So the legacy, let's go forward, of Marion Robinson and Doria Ragland goes beyond their immediate families. They are also individuals, and as individuals, they are exemplary. They exemplify the power of maternal love and the importance of family support systems. Their stories remind us of the crucial role that mothers and grandmothers play in nurturing future generations. It's important to recognize and celebrate these matriarchs as they often work behind the scenes, ensuring the success and well-being of their families. Their contributions are invaluable and deserve to be honored and remembered. And so when we have our mothers in our homes, or when we have the ability to have our mothers close by our children, we can take the kids and just drop them off. Not that parents necessarily always want that. We know that our children are safe and that they're going to be loved and cared for and protected. And so that's what Marion Robinson and Doria Ragland represent to me. Mothers who have decided to, in their lives at this present moment, I think Mrs. Robinson may have been a little bit older than Doria when she moved into the White House, but not too much older. So, and during this final, and Doria might disagree, part of their lives, they decided to dedicate them to helping their children have the lives in public service, and to also make sure that their grandkids are shored up in a way that they don't have to deal with any kind of stranger violence, babysitter violence, emotional violence. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. So any questions, any comments, anything that you guys would like to say right now? I am really just thinking about Doria Ragland and those girls. And so I'm going to go back through the slideshow that I put up for earlier today when I was having such technical difficulties. So here we go. We're going to move back through here. If you've seen these before, I think you just enjoy them for a second time, okay? And again, the chat is acting strangely. I probably did something that I need to fix. So the last comment I can see is Carla Johnson's. So somebody can just put If you want to move the chat up, just say hi or put a 1 or something in there to help it move up. So here we go. Is this transitioning? I don't know. All right, transition to the next slide. I didn't see it move. It is not moving. What in the world? Let me turn... Oh, okay. Let me turn this off. Sorry, I'm as I narrate what I'm doing, and turn that one off. There we go. So you can see here the Obama girls and their grandma, right? I had another one though. Let me go back to... Hi Carla. Turn that back on. Let me see. One more second. Maybe I'll get this right. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it right. But anyway, you can see the Obama girls as young girls here. And, that's Marion or Mrs. Robinson. Love that name. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie. That is Maya, President Obama's sister. And that is Malia, the oldest, and then Sasha as a young girl. And this is Inauguration Day. This is the day that they all moved into the White House. I don't know why my other slides are not showing. This is so strange. Okay, this says 12, so we'll see. All right, so we go there. No, it's not moving. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try again. Let me turn this eye on. Turn that eye off and see if that's what... Yeah, okay. Oh, no, that's the wrong slideshow. Guys, anyway, let me go back here and see if this is going to work now. Transition. All right, so if you see them on the screen, love the queens, Carla. This is not anyway, so I'm just going to keep talking as I try and make my technology work. Hopefully I will figure it out. So yeah, the Obama girls with their grandma. So I'm sure most of us can remember when we lost our grandmothers, how that felt, how deep that pain is and was. And so as we navigate today, we can think about, what that means for them. And eventually, again, either it's going to be us. I'm sort of on that. I am definitely on that end of the spectrum, as both my mom and grandma, my grandmommy, they're both gone. And I can remember thinking... Here's a transition. Here's a cute one. I can remember having a conversation with my mommy. See Michelle as a little girl with her mommy and daddy about, mommy, grandmommy's gone. Like, you're up next. And now I'm up next. And it's a scary feeling. No matter, it's a scary feeling being up next. And so as my mom was beginning to age, I imagined her mortality probably too often. And so, yeah, that was a thing for me. I'm going to try and move this slide. Oh, okay, I think I've got it. All right, here we go. Let's see. Yay! So this is Malia, the oldest, and Sasha, little pouty Sasha as a little one, looking so cute, again with their grandma. Princess Meghan's father chose money over his precious daughter and grandkids. Yeah, how sad, right? How sad to imagine that can be a thing that our parents or people that we love, and we see it happens all the time. And then we have to also go through a kind of grief over the loss of, a paternal or maternal parent and or relationship. Like, I'm not a celebrity, but I see it in celebrity culture too all the time when people accept monies over familial connections. And then generally years down the line, we can see sometimes a coming back together. So there's Maya. Her mom named her, President Obama's mom was a real warrior. And she was working with microloans back in the day before they were really a thing, before economists were getting Nobel Prizes for them. She was in Indonesia, in fact, helping women with microloans so that they could start businesses. So here's the next one. I love this one. You don't see the pictures? What? You guys can't see the picture of Michelle, Malia, because it's showing on both of my screens right now. No? Carla, wait, who said that? Carla, are you saying you still don't see the pictures? So on the screen I have the same picture that was up initially in the thumbnail from earlier today. Okay, you see it. Yeah. Okay. I'll go back so you see the other ones if you didn't see those also. So this was the thumbnail from earlier today. I changed it a bit so people wouldn't get confused because this is a live. And then this is the two kiddos. And I was saying that Doria was probably around this age, maybe a bit younger than Mrs. Robinson when this photo was taken. The kids were really young, right? Look at how cute they are. Love the hair. This is them, and that's Maya, and that's their auntie, President Obama's sister, and mom at the inauguration in those little fashionable coats. And next up, this is the one that I love. The 3 generations of women, right? Do you believe he's trying to build a relationship with... Okay, you believe he's trying to build a relationship with her? Carla? I think he likely has some regrets, right? Because once we do something that feels like it can be a fatal blow to our relationship and that person that we love no longer communicates with us, I don't know that... I mean, most people have had broken relationships or ruptured relationships where there's a cutoff in their relationship with us and a loved one, be that a family member or friend, and trying to find our way back to friendships and or relationships with parents can be challenging because what, parents and people don't often consider is the kids turn into adults and they also begin to have their own autonomy and they don't have to be in relationship with you any longer. Sometimes people decide to mourn the relationship with the former partner, the child, and, love them from a distance, if you will. So when there's a major rupture in a relationship, then we have a choice about how we want to move forward after that thing happens. And so I think that for Thomas, he was living, as we know, in Mexico and probably struggling financially, also was likely dealing with some anxiety and not going to likely show up for the wedding. Then he was, courted by UK tabloids, and there seemed to be a kind of plot that was happening around that time to stop the wedding, right? We're going to stop this wedding. We're going to pay him. We're not going to tell him this, but we're going to send him to tailor shops, and we'll make lots of money off of these prints. And then, eventually we came to the point where they had control, it seemed, over his mail. Don't know exactly what was happening during that time, but I remember Meghan saying something specifically about, I wrote this to my dad and he's acting very strangely, like he's not the one that's able to touch the mail, that's unimaginable. And you imagine trying to prepare for your wedding, you're trying to prepare to go forth in your own life and make a family for you and your progeny if you want to have kids, but make your own adult life, right? And you want your papa there, you want your daddy there, you want your pops there, if you will. And so this is not a normal situation. And this person who doesn't have a lot of money, but is being wooed. And so we understand that then the whole heart attack thing happened, right? I am really sick. And this is where allegedly the really sinister part of all of this happens. If he is allegedly sick, and we've seen a lot of alleged sickness lately in the tabloids, and a lot of people are saying, I don't believe that. And some people are saying, I pray for them to get well. And some people are saying it's mighty convenient. And some of us are having all of these thoughts all at once, right? We don't want anybody to have cancer. And if that's the case, we want people to be well inside of their bodies so that they can have the lives that they want. And at the same time, it seems strange that we haven't seen the Princess of Wales since December, if you will. Thank you so much, April, for letting me know. I missed something from Carla too. Be thankful to have a great relationship with your parents. That is absolutely correct. I mean, in my mind, that's true. And if you have a relationship with your parents, be thankful for that. And if if there's a rupture and you feel like you want to make a repair, go ahead and start that process if you can. Because what I know from living this life that I've lived I have a really young voice, they say. I am not a really young person. And so what I know from living this life that I have lived for as long as I have is that this life it ends. And I know more people at this point in my life who are where Mrs. Robinson is and have loved more people who are on the other side than are still with us. So, when you turn around and your aunties and your uncles and even your cousins, for some of us, our cousins start passing away when we're young. My first death, I was 5, and there was a car crash, and a cousin was, and it was devastating, all of that. And so having empathy around all of these ruptures, all of these kinds of griefs, and when somebody's no longer with us, the only person that we can repair that rupture with is ourselves, right? We can do things in their names. We can have conversations with them in our minds, and these things can come out of our mouths. And at the same time, even as they're coming out of our mouths, we can't know for sure that they're able to hear us. So if we can, while our loved ones are with us, for me, I would love to have that. Both of my parents are gone. And so not being able to do that is tough. And so we just came through Mother's Day not long ago, and we're moving beyond that into Father's Day and then into Juneteenth, I celebrate Juneteenth. So these times that we have, we should cherish if we can. And so thinking again about Thomas Markle and his alleged behavior, if you know that someone doesn't have a lot of money, it can be very tempting. And so what happened, I think, with him is, I don't know that he wanted to stop his daughter's wedding. And I'm sure some of you will disagree. I do believe that he suffered from not having perspective, because how much more money could he have gotten had he walked his daughter down the aisle and did a book deal? Maybe went on Weight Watchers. I don't know. I'm sure there could have been a lot more lucrative deals that would have come his way, even working with his daughter, putting him on staff, if you will, if he hadn't been tempted by money. And allegedly there's also an alcohol challenge. And so when you put money with addiction, and I'm not saying he's an addict, I'm saying that there's a challenge allegedly around, we've seen him pictured with beers quite often. So when you do these things and someone's living in Mexico, for example, and retiring there, most people move to countries when they leave the United States, if they're not from these places, because it's cheaper. And they can have a higher standard of living outside of the United States than they can inside of this country. So let's say, for example, if you live in the Bay, where I live, an average rent can be anywhere from, let's say, $3,500 on the low end to, I've seen $19,000 in my neighborhood. So if you can get down to 10% of that, and you can in the world, and if you're struggling to make ends meet, we can see why people make choices that we wouldn't make, and we can see why that may have ended the way it did with the Duchess. And we can also mourn for her and her relationship with her father. So a lot has been happening, though, in the world of media. I saw an apology by the First Lady in Nigeria. I saw this death of Mrs. Robinson. We see turmoil that's happening in South Africa where the ANC lost their election, right? And so that is wild. So people in South Africa are really worried, and allegedly, I can't say this is going to happen, but about what's going to happen to their government. Will they go back to an apartheid system? Doubtful, but I am not a voter. I don't live in South Africa. And I am also simultaneously worried. We have wars and rumors of wars, and we also have love. And so we see the love of Michelle Obama with her daughters and her mom, and we see the power of a grandmother, right, in these images. And for me, it is so beautiful. Go Taste and See says, I can see too. Thank you, Go Taste and See. They're all in white, right? And you know what? What's interesting, I think, about lots of cultures around the world, African American culture to some degree, Indian culture, white can also represent funeral colors, right? So when my grandmother was around, she would say, oh, we don't wear black to funerals anymore. We wear white. And I'm like, okay. So Carla says, I agree. He would have been better off if he had been by Princess Meghan's side. Absolutely. And I believe, sorry. Can you guys still hear me? Half of my mic fell off. I'm holding it and I don't normally do that. But yeah, I agree. Like, how many of us would be better off if we are by the side of our parents? How much better would she have felt having her papa walk her down the aisle? How much better would he be feeling if he could hold his granddaughters, right? Because she's the baby, literally, of that family as far as we know. And he doesn't get to hold Archie. He doesn't get to hold Lily. He doesn't get to see Doria. I don't know how he feels about Doria, but for a lot of people, seeing our ex can be kind of a fire thing. Like, oh yeah, look at you, girl. I'm being silly. But Novi says, you have to hear Thomas on Australian TV telling them it was all to stop the wedding. They had to cut his mic. Yes! And that is so wild. That is so wild. And I think he has deep regrets around what happened with his daughter and what happened. Can you imagine having a child? And your child is even in the public eye, not even as much as she is. But you have to see your daughter every day and understand and love your child. That relationship, at least for now, is no longer within reach, right? And it is not because of your child's making. It is because you, the parent, did something really dreadful. And you have to live with that. And you have to, pictures of those kiddos don't come out very often because they are quite protective of their kids. When people know what they look like, they can do great harm to those kids. And we've seen in the media where they want Harry, for the most part, to come home. And I understand that it is my belief that if he came home, it would be fine for him to come home with or without those kids, because those kids are also a reminder of other things. I think for a lot of people in the UK, the kids and Meghan feel like a rejection of them, when in fact it wasn't. They tried it. But, when your partner is dealing with suicidal ideation, and when you've walked behind the literal casket of your mother, at that age, that baby, Harry as a young child who loved his mama, right? And even the ring that Princess Kate is wearing, I remember reading that Harry picked the ring. They gave them a choice of all the things that were in Princess Diana's box, like the jewelry that they could take. And Harry wanted to take the ring. And he did take it. And he took it not because it represented this marriage and it represented something that he wanted to give to his wife. He took it because every time he held his mama's hand, he also held that ring, right? And so that ring still contains some of his mama inside of it. The DNA is not completely washed away, I would say. And so somewhere inside of that ring, and even if it is, right, even if we imagine that they cleaned it 99.99 something percent of, they washed Diana away, the feeling that we have when we hold on to these tokens that belong to our parents, those things, they shore us up. They help us with grief. So I'm going to take this ring, and if my wife is wearing it, so if Meghan's wearing that ring and I hold her hand, in some way I feel like I'm also holding onto my mama's hand. And so what I understand about that ring is that William said, how about, hey, I see you've got it. How about the first one of us who gets married will take the ring? Well, who's more likely to get married first? The older brother or the younger brother? Right? Who's more going to have more pressure around marriages? And Carrie, being the guy he is, agrees, right? And would he have been better off giving it to his wife? I can't say so, because that marriage also, it ended. And it ended, not only did the marriage end tragically, but the mother's life also ended tragically, right? So, Novi said, I saw that video too. Okay, yeah. So I think he feels quite sad about losing his child. And so this is, can be a moment for reflecting for him as well. I have compassion for him, and I can recognize that it's important to have compassion for him, and it's also important that Meghan, she can exist in a way that feels good for her. Because if you have to worry about your parent who is vulnerable, or a lot of times people become victims of the press and the bright lights, because he was on TV a lot. Like, I can't imagine. Can you guys imagine, squatties, your parents going on TV and talking smack about you for money? Like, Ma, what's up? Like, really? I just cannot imagine what that wound would feel like. And how do you repair that relationship? And so now, even going forward, our Princess Duchess is going to have to be okay with, and I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I don't think any of us does. But knowing that her father's life on this earth it's probably not going to be another 20 years. And so does that rupture get repaired? Or are we okay as a person going forward and our parent passing away without us repairing that rupture privately and or publicly? And so I think thankfully for Meghan, in the case of her mama, and Miss Doria probably has another 20-25 years ahead of her, let's hope. Thomas, with his lifestyle, apparently the way it looks, like, when they say he had this heart attack, when they say allegedly that he had a heart attack, when they say that he's kind of a heavy drinker, when they say that he deals with other health concerns, in the not so distant future, she is going to maybe have to deal with this as well, not with her mom, but potentially with her dad. And so then we also know there's going to be a kind of media storm that's going to surround the princess around the death of him. There's going to be this extreme blame. She won't be allowed to grieve privately. And so that's a whole nother level of trauma that's going to happen for her. And in this moment, she has to be okay with what it is. Because when we decide to go forward in these relationships that have ruptures, then we go forward with the understanding that these things can happen again, right? So that whole shame on me, that shame on you the first time and then shame on me the second time. And so for me, again, like, we've asked for grace in the squad over the last week with respect to the way the squad has been squabbling, if you will. And so I think Meghan likely has made peace, and she also hasn't faced the firestorm that we know she's going to face, because every day in her life there's a kind of firestorm that happens for her. Anybody have any comments? So yeah, I'm going to go through the pictures some more. So I just thought it was beautiful. I love that scene with the flowers in the background. And it quite frankly reminds me of the scene, if you've seen Black Panther, when T'Challa and his father are in another realm. And it's a very kind of ethereal place, a beautiful place that you can imagine if there are these books, if there is a heaven What does it look like? Are we all dressed up in white and smiling and looking beautiful? And grandma is right there. Mama's right there. Our sister is right there. And we are just feeling really good about how we are in the world right now. So this is what I imagine when I see this picture of Marion and her granddaughter and her daughter. I'm looking like, what happened to you guys? Know me, I don't know what I pushed, but there are more photographs. See if I can nope, go there. So yeah, I can imagine this. Oh, there we are. All right, yay. Turn this one off, turn that one back on, transition. So yeah, we can imagine this transition. Next picture. Okay. Nope, doesn't want to transition. So I will get it working. But we can imagine like what heaven looks like, feels like for, people who are religious, and for people who are not religious. We can imagine how we will be existing as we move into that next realm, right? And so this week has been, I think for me, I will say, a kind of reminder, a kind of recentering after the sort of squabble that the squad engaged in over this last week. How do we come together? Like, we remember that these things, these memories, they only last but a moment. And so, because they only last but a moment, then we have to go forward in a way we don't have to, but we can choose to try and go forward in a way with our loved ones that represents the way we want to, right? In our wildest dreams. And so, like, when I saw this picture of Michelle and her mama, right, I think if this was me and my mom, this picture would shore me up, because it's just, for me, a gorgeous picture. So let's see. Quinn says Meghan tried everything she could to help him. He would not listen and pushed her away. I remember, and that was a really, really tough time for her. I remember her crying and talking about crying in the documentary, I think it was, when she was reaching out, and just couldn't. And so we can't always fix everything in our time. Sometimes it is, the universe's time that these things get fixed. 20 years from now, nobody will hardly be thinking about these things. But right now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, likely they will still be on people's radars. And so however it gets handled, she is going to have to deal with it. And ultimately, he's going to have to deal with it, right? And he's dealing with it now. And I can imagine, hopefully he's getting, some psychological help. Because don't we all want to be like this? Don't we all want to be in the arms of, maybe not all, but at times, don't we want to have, at least in our minds, if not in our bodies, a kind of relationship that feels like these images look, of Mrs. Robinson and her daughter, Michelle. So here we go. There's a mama and baby, right? Sitting there looking like, the cutest, chubbiest baby. And you can see how Doria loves that baby just in that moment right there. Like, that is my everything. And yeah, they're just the two of us, right? Do you guys remember that song? Will Smith didn't originate it, but when his oldest child, he was having a baby with Jada, I believe, and his oldest son was, he thought, worried about if you're going to still love me as much as you do the new ones with your new wife and your new, and then he did the Just the Two of Us son with his older son, and I just thought that was one of the most gorgeous things. And so this is what this picture reminds me of, or my favorite car song. If you want to, you can put your favorite car song in the chat. Mine is Lovely Day by Bill Withers. When I wake up in the morning, love, right? And the sunlight hurts my eye. And I'm singing off key, so sorry. But anyway, when I think about Lovely Day, like, I will turn it on full blast and sing off key Not as bad as what Sexy Red did this week with Drake. Not that kind of that like that, right? Not that kind of off key, but when I want to be in my happy place and I'm driving and I put that song on, I can go and go and go. And so these images, this one, also like the last one that we saw, looks like it's just a lovely day. Mama sitting there with her baby. And when I look at this picture, I notice a lot of things, right? I notice that baby's dressed a certain way. Mama's got that baby protected. Look at that hat. Look at the jacket. Look at this, the smile, like all the stuff that she has gathered there for herself and her child. You can tell just by looking at the things in the way that the child is dressed, that, and the smile on mama's face and baby's face, that child is loved, right? So this is a parallel image to the Michelle image with her mama. And Doria's young, young makeup artist, and just loving on her little chubby baby and protecting that baby from the sun and from whatever the other elements are. So this is what I see in this image of Doria and her baby. Let's see. I must say, to be honest, it's not safe for Prince Harry. They will never forgive him. Yeah, I think that especially with the older crowd, and by older I mean the people in their at least mid-60s, 70s, and that's not old, I just mean like that group of royalists are pretty hardened to Harry. I think the younger generation, especially the millennials and the Gen Zers, they might. I think that they want him back, they understand, and they rarely poll them, right? Carlos says, beautiful background. Yeah, Doris, Bill Withers. Oh, and he is just that working man who was a phenomenal writer. Marshall, hey! Oh, no. Okay, Marshall, I'm preparing. I always have such joy when I... All right. Tommy Boy, and I can't see all of it, so put something in there so that it'll rise up. I don't know what's happening with my chat. But, Tommy Boy, 79 years old, maybe in ill health, but is overweight, so his days may be short. Too bad he's been such a tool to his daughter. That's all I can see, Marshall, until the chat moves up. That is all. Let's see. I touched something and then it went away. Let me go back. That is all. Then I've got to figure this out. That's all I can see. So, yeah, I didn't realize he was 79 years old. Well, he's doing pretty good for 79. And yeah, we've heard ill health, overweight. Yep. And then he also has those 2 kiddos that are they're always doing something. They always are up to their antics. Can you imagine that they may be telling him not to make amends with his younger child? And we also know like the history of that sister. No, I wouldn't call her sister, the half-sister, alleged half-sister, because I ain't seen no DNA test. So I'm not going to say she it's that bad. That sounds like a Marshall-ism, if you will. But I ain't seen no DNA, so I can't say for sure. Okay, I can see the rest now. To his daughter. When he goes, he may join Lizzie. Marsha, Lizzie to sit on that hot stone. Marsha, you get right too. Marsha is always like bringing the heat. Marsha, are you the one putting that stone down for them? So does anybody else have any compassion for Thomas Markle? Because Marsha looks like she's got negative compassion, talking about, yeah, but if 79, and so when we get to that age, right, because I thought I was grown. You turn 18, okay, I'm grown. Then you turn 21, you're like, okay, I'm really grown. And then you turn 30 and it's like, oh, this is what grown feels like. Then you get to 40, right? You keep going. And every generation, every decade, I think I get a different understanding about I do get a different understanding of what grown is.
And I would hope by the time that I get to, 70, that I would figure out a way to be able to navigate my relationship with family in a way that you don't have to have these extreme cutoffs. You have to, my grandma would say, humble yourself, took the H off of humble yourself and do the thing that you need to do. And so Kendrick Lamar has a different version of that. Be humble. He doesn't say humble is what he says. Sorry, guys. I'm not that kind of humble. My grandmother would say, you need to humble yourself before God, humble yourself when you've done something that's wrong, and ask for forgiveness. And that it also takes works. So forgiveness is not given, that it's earned. So what can he do if I know you guys don't care much about probably coming up with a plan. Marshall is saying, hey Carla, yep, too bad I was late. I have so much more to give. Bring it, because it is, you know what, it is Saturday night and Sunday in some places, so some people are still up and some of us have not gone to bed yet. So you have so much more to give. Oh, especially her. Oh no. Oh no. And, I've seen people talking about her lately, and I have thoughts on her as well. Like, I am worried, and you guys always hear me say this, those of you who show up, right? I'm really still worried about the Princess of Wales. And allegedly, right, it is not looking great for me in this moment. The fact that, as you guys have pointed out in the past, we have, there was the Christmas thing, but like you guys pointed out, that's not filmed in December. That's likely filmed November sometime. So we officially haven't seen the princess since November. And at the same time, we saw the ambulances outside of the house. And we always hear incandescent with rage, and we always hear how angry, and Harry, how he ended up in the dog bowl, right? So we know, and we've seen bruises. I can say allegedly, we've seen what looks like bruises that have appeared on her body, and we want the best for her. She's got 3 kids who love and want and need their mommy. And so, it just gets stranger and stranger out there in these streets. So we haven't seen her since December. And we kept hearing, oh, we're going to see her. She's going to be at the Easter program. Oh, okay. She's going to be at Trooping the Colors. Oh, okay. And now it's like, we're not going to see her until next year. What has to happen when you have the big C word? In my family, some of the major things that have happened when people didn't want to show themselves, and I'll just speak for myself, is I had an uncle and an aunt both have to have a trach, right? So they had those things put in their bodies, they wore scarves around their necks, and they used these little machines to communicate. My father also, in the end, had to have one, he was on a ventilator, though, so he wasn't walking around. So I'm like, what could it be if there is a kind of sickness where there's no way to show her? There's no way for her to say. And I remember, I think it was January, February, there was an article that came out. You guys would know, you guys keep the receipts better than I do, that said there was no cancer, right? So then we're to assume that there's a stage 0 cancer, a kind of preventative, where they're giving chemotherapy, in this case, just to make sure that she's going to be okay, which is also interesting. So if you have stage 0 cancer, and people do have stage 0 where they're not actually cancer cells present, but the cells look like they're these abnormal cells that often turn into cancer cells. So people go through a kind of chemotherapy. But the way those things are discovered is not a parallel to the way that hers was discovered, allegedly. So that doesn't even sound to me, but I'm not an MD, but I would have to ask a friend who is an MD how that works and see what they say about it. But stage 0 cancer, chemo, but in my mind, I have not seen the princess since November at least, and I'm really, really worried, because And the other thing, and I know we've said this before, if she is like somewhere, has social services been able to come out and do a kind of report to let us know that even though we haven't seen her, because there's enough people in the United Kingdom who I'm sure are very concerned about her, where there should have been a report done by now to let some people know that she's safe. We haven't seen her family go around much. I don't think at all, really. We've seen people on vacation. We've seen her mom driving in the car with a woman that they said was her. And of course, squaddies were like, nope, that's not her. Different jawline, different this, different that. We've seen a woman, one day they let us know that she was skipping in a market, right? And she had this big old purse and was next to this guy who looked like her husband. Come to find out, like, and then it was like, yeah, that's her, that's her, that's her. And then after TMZ was about to do this huge expose and this documentary on where is she, then that same day, I think that the movie or the documentary was supposed to come out, they came out and said, just like Charles, she has the C word, right? And so that was sort of like, because in January they said no C present, and then no cancer present, allegedly, right? And so then for them to come right back out and say, like, I think it was about 2 months later, and say, actually, she does have, and you're not going to see her until around Easter. And so Easter's almost come and gone twice. Like, Christmas will be here in, before we can turn around. Like, this year's gone really fast. Thank you, Cat Williams. And so, I don't know. We saw the Frankenstein photo where there was that the Vogue cover? Where she was on the cover of Vogue, and after she was on the cover of Vogue, nothing. Because it was like all of these weird hands and all of these weird, and the exact smile, the exact position of the face. That would never happen. Where someone would be in the precise pose. Not 1/1,000,000th of a degree off of that pose, outside of that pose. But, so we were just like, what? What is happening? And so most of us in the squad, we want her to be, I think the squad wants her to be okay, because then, some people can drag her, but it's really challenging to, and then someone pointed out that the C word happened right after the allegations came out in, was it a Dutch book where the two people who the royal alleged racists were named? Was that in Amsterdam or? Anyway, it might have been, I think it was, yeah. And so after that happened, then, we see this C word. But there's so much that's happening in that family. And then we get to see the new wife take on this real royal role, right? She's doing so much out there for the family. And I can't imagine what that would feel like to have to watch her take the place of your mother, or take the place of, Diana. So she wins in the end, and that has to be really, really sad for, I think, Prince Harry. And then remember what he said about his mom. Like, we're just like, what is happening? So we have all of these things converging at once. We have Charles, he's sick, and he also wanted the slim down monarchy. We have Kate that we haven't seen in ages. We have this alleged affair between the Prince of Wales and the late Rose Hanbury, if you will. And so you have all of these things happening. So some people are saying she had a mental breakdown, that she had a psychotic break. Some people are saying, allegedly, that she's no longer with us. Some people are saying that there has been a kind of filing for divorce. And so, we don't know. We don't know. And let's see. No compassion for Thomas, Sammy the scammer, and the jailbird brother. Yeah. No compassion for TM. Okay. Okay, no, it says no compassion for Thomas. No compassion for Thomas, says Carla, Sammy the scammer, and the jailbird brother. Sammy is hard to have. For me, I just can't. And perhaps that goes back to her relationship with her children. But it just seems like even I saw a picture, and if I can find it, I will bring it and put it up, of the Duchess, the Princess Duchess, as a baby around this age on that photo. And Samantha is holding her, and you can see her crying to get out of her hands. And you're just like, people will say children, babies and animals understand people who are not safe. And so I can imagine that maybe she pinched this baby at a certain time. Like, what must that be like? And then the squad has some receipts on things that Thomas Markle allegedly said when he found out that Doria was pregnant with Meghan. Am I imagining these things? That he said some things around that pregnancy that perhaps allegedly, that he wasn't very happy with it. And guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. I know I'm really bad at that. If there are any mods out there, I don't think there are. If you are, just put a notification in the chat and remind people to hit the like button if you guys like the material. That's a way to help the channel and watch some videos, spend some time watching videos that you haven't seen. I'm sort of slow. It takes me a long time to get a video made, and because I want to be really precise and I want to do this work in a certain way and honor you guys. And so the way that you can honor the channel, if you feel like it, is to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get like notifications on the videos that get put out. And when I go live, then I know most of you who are in the chat at least have already done all of those things, and I really appreciate it. And some of you who have gotten I've gotten a subscriber and some other things that have happened, memberships. So those things are also nice. But the most important thing that you can do, in my estimation, is to show up, is to engage, is to let me know what you want from this channel, to let me know in the chat, to let me know in the comments. I try and mostly get to them the same day, usually within an hour or so. When I'm working, that's more challenging. Let's see. It was reported. Wait. I believe it has to do with the trouble in the marriage. Okay. Thank you, Carla. Quinn says it was reported that Kate's mother was in a car accident. That's why she hasn't been. Oh, I didn't hear that. Thank you so much for saying that. So let's hope she's okay. I know she's been struggling financially. I don't know if they have helped her with all the money they have with their struggles. Carla says Kate is well protected than how they treated Princess Diana and Princess Meghan. Yeah, we see that Princess Diana, they took, and that's the thing, like, they took the security away from Princess Diana. And then after they took the security away, we understand that she was not protected in the way that she would have been protected had she had royal security. And so you do the exact same thing to her kid? Like, how? How can you say you give a crap about Harry if you understand how important it is to have security? And what does security cost for any, like, the members of the people who are citizens of the UK? What would it cost each person? A dime a year, maybe, to make sure that Harry is protected and his children are protected? He's not asking for them to take care of him in California, but when he's in the UK, so how can he conduct business there? You want Invictus there, and you don't want to help him, so then he has to come out of pocket. And so when he comes out of pocket, then there's also this thing about how he makes his money. So, like, you want to control everything, and and at the same time, it doesn't matter what Harry does. There's never gonna, like, if the people of the UK are paying for Harry's security, then there are these things that get said. He's the welfare or whatever. If they're not, and he has to go make money in other ways, then there's comments about that. And then I saw something, I think it was either today or yesterday, about Prince Harry and how Prince Harry is getting more inheritance than William from the Queen. Like, seriously, he gets a whole kingdom, the brother does. And Prince Harry gets not much. I mean, like, literally, we've talked about how he was walking around with holes in his shoes when he was working for the royal family as a younger person. Not a young person, but a younger person before Meghan. And then we saw that whole, remember the black wife effect and how she turned Harry into a whole like hot butter biscuit, and how like it's just like, dang Harry, like you got a real glow up, if you will. And let's see, Kate is well protected than how they treated Princess Di. Yep, and Meghan. Willie didn't want to be near her. Didn't want to be near her. Okay. And then Kat Harlem. Oh, Harlem in the house says, maybe it's just my phone, but every fifth, sixth word is bleeped out. Is that happening for you guys too? Does it sound like words are being bleeped out? Can you understand what I'm saying on the microphone right now? If you can understand me, can you put a 1 in the chat? And if I need to change microphones again, can you put a number 2 in the chat? So Kat Harlem says it's bleeped. No one else is saying anything? If I need to change mics, can you put a number 2 in the chat, please? Or if I need to just disconnect and use the mic on the computer, can you put a number 2 in the chat? Nope. Nobody wants to put a number 2 in the chat. William want a new wife. Katie has served her purpose. Carla, if your own father don't care about your safety and your family, I'm staying away from you. Okay, so okay, Carla, so I'm good. Carla says I'm good. Kat Harlem. Marshar says, Kate is too protected so much we haven't seen her. She may be in the tower. I can't see the rest, Marshar. Hit enter on the computer. She may be in the tower with and then that's all I can see. I'm going to try and work on this tomorrow so that I'll have a more clear view of what is happening. Yeah, so we haven't seen Kate. We've seen Willie. We haven't seen him much. And I saw George. Prince George is the only kid that I've seen. I can't recall seeing Charlotte or Louis, although Louis we don't see as much anyway. And Louis seems like he's going to be the one that gets targeted the most. Let's see. With two princes, come on, we all know the history of that family. And I think that that's so true. I think that we forget the history of that family. The history of that family is partially how a lot of us got here in these United States, right? The history of that family is how lots of kingdoms got carved up and peoples got wiped out. The history of that family has to do with why we have a hierarchy around skin. You know, that they got that from the Spanish, but they perfected it, if you will. They had, you know what, the thing that kills me, I don't see it as much as I used to, but the thing that gets me a bit is when you see the members of the hate squad, the BM, remember like the poop emoji or the British media, the members of the BM, thank you so much, Marshar, talk about the sugars, right? They call us sugars. And did I miss your poem? Can you put it back in? Wait, hold on. Kate is too protected so much we haven't seen her. She may be in the tower with the princess. Is that the poem? Come on, we all know the history of that family. Is that the poem, Marshar? I guess it's just me, Marshar 1. I guess you missed my poem. Did I miss it? Put it back in there, please, Marshar. You know, yeah, so, the sugars. So, I'm sure the squad knows where that term comes from, but it burns me up every time I hear it, see it. So I would like for somebody to say it to my face. And that has to do with African descended people working on sugar plantations as enslaved people. So when they're calling us sugars, they're hearkening back to that time period in history when black people were owned. It's like, okay, I see your sugar, and yeah, say that to my face, if you will, allegedly. Carla, Louis gonna give them hell. I absolutely agree, and I hope he keeps that part of his personality. They will try to, wipe it out, and they will try to bring him to heel, if you will. I just don't think, like, right now, he has his own personality. He's going about things the way that he wants to. George allegedly seems to be a bit more like William to me. He seems to be being groomed, and I don't mean in any kind of sinister way, but to be king. And it seems like they're grooming him to be king in the same way that they groomed Prince Charles. We see how that worked out. In the same way that they groomed Prince William, we see how that's working out. And now for him. And so it's pretty scary to me to see him coming up in the same way as his grandpa and his dad, because when those things happen and you put one kid in this position and you push everybody else down, we see what Andrew turned out to be. Yeah, I'm going to say yuck, allegedly, right? Andrew with his antics. We see Edward, he seems to just be almost a shadow. So his wife seems to be out there in the world doing things, but he doesn't make much noise at all. He seems to be he looks like a kiddo who might have been neglected as a child. And we know, how Prince Charles dealt with Harry when Princess Diana passed away. We know Queen Elizabeth didn't give many hugs and would leave the kids with their nannies for extended periods of time. And that it doesn't look like this relationship on the screen that we see with Princess Duchess Meghan and her mama, right? It seems like it's almost anti that kind of relationship, that there was not a whole lot of affection that happened in that family, and we've heard that multiple times. I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so we see a more recent picture, and we can see how similar they look, right? And in other pictures, I see them look even more similarly. Let's see. Marshall, you didn't put the poem back in the chat. Can you put it back? Carla Johnson. Louis going to give him hell, thankfully, because I hope that he grows up and it's hard to say, though, because his mom doesn't have the same spirit as Princess Diana. It doesn't seem, because Princess Diana encouraged Harry a lot, and she would always say, oh, he's a Spencer, Harry's a Spencer, because he was a lot more like her. And I guess when you're being groomed to be king, you don't have a lot of control about what happens to your kid. So I think she talked a bit about feeling like she was a breeder at times, that she was there for the heir and the spare. And after that, those things were done, she gave him the one. And we understand that in these monarchies, Bloody Mary, I think, lost all of her children, and so had an issue around Queen Elizabeth I and wanted her to disappear because she felt like she was going to come for her. And so wild. And so, when you've lost that many kids, we saw Queen Charlotte and how many she had, all of these kids. Hers didn't, mostly pass away, thankfully. So, but the losing of children has been a real thing. It's only until recently in the world, I'd say in the last 100 years, where that was not an expectation, that you would lose one or multiple kids. So you would have an heir and a spare, if you will. So, like, my grandmother lost 3 kiddos, and two to dysentery. And these were, like, toddlers, and grieved for those for the rest of her life. Left the South partially because she couldn't handle losing another child, because they couldn't get appropriate medical care for those babies, right? Talked about that, especially the older daughter that was so smart, for my entire childhood, and that never left her, that loss of her beautiful baby. And so, like, in those times, then you loved on these kids potentially as if it's the last time. So, but we didn't see this with Charles. We saw Queen Elizabeth be, quite stoic in the upbringing of her children. And even Charles, when Diana passed away, we also understand that he squoze Harry's knee. Like, really? Really, Dad? That's all I get? I don't get a hug? My mama's gone, and I really need you to do more than that. So can you imagine grieving and then having to work on the day of your mom's funeral by walking behind a coffin, or they call it coffin over there, we normally call it casket, but walk behind this coffin of your mom for all this, I don't know, miles, because your daddy was doing things and the people in the country were angry with him. So you have to not only not get shored up emotionally, but you also are going to get more scarred by people, having to walk in this, and be on display so that a country can mourn. Oh, look at the poor kid. His mom is no longer with us, right? No, the tower one isn't the poem. Marsha, can you put it back in the chat, please? I don't think I can't go back. This chat function on here is not very good. So anyway, we see that our Duchess and her mom looking alike. And you guys remember this one? I love this picture. She looks like a little girl at the wedding. She was at the wedding and she was just looking so innocent and so, she was looking just kind of like she was having some anxiety, but I think this is an innocent looking picture of Queen Doria, if you will, sitting at the church. And so I think this is perfect outside in this. I love this place, this magical looking place that, of where she's sitting in this photograph right now. So that's our queen, Miss Doria. And then we have, YouTube is blocking the poem? What? Is that a thing? Really? Oh no, I didn't. Wow. Okay, so can you put it in line by line? Is it? Wow. Carla's saying, Marshar, what's the name of the poem? It's something that you wrote yourself, Marshar, because we know you got words. And so again, like when I see Doria here, it reminds me again of Marion Robinson and her images of her with her granddaughters and how she was always there, kind of in the background a bit, but making sure that she's there to protect those babies. And so everybody looks so happy. I love this photograph too. You've got Meghan looking chubby with her baby belly fat there. You've got the queen. She's lost quite a bit of weight, but she's still looking pretty good because her husband's still around. And then look at Harry just looking dotingly and almost, he looks kind of innocent and afraid in this image to me of him looking at his child and the beautiful thing that love made, kind of like Stevie Wonder's song. And then you see, again, Doria there, not in the foreground, but sort of, innocently, knowing she's going to be holding that baby all day when all of this. And then little Archie just, he's so cute. He was such a cute baby. And, I love this picture of all of them for different reasons. Even the grandpa is looking like, that's the next Harry's the favorite kid. We all know that. And so that's our favorite's baby. And isn't that baby lovely? Isn't he lovely, right? Stevie Wonder. I can't believe YouTube is blocking the poem, Marsha. That's wild. Is it something that you wrote yourself? Let's see. Charles used those boys to walk behind the coffin and his concubine. I can't see the last word. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but he did, because we all understand, even if we go back to those images of him, all in red, the gentlemen in red that were painted, and we go back to the conversation about him, with him on the phone talking to Camilla about what he wanted to be for her. We're just like, oh my God. The painting, I think, is just perfect. I think I'm gonna say that the painting that Yao did of King Charles, I still have trouble with that, is kind of perfect because it does so many different things at once. It forced him to stand up there in front of the public, and when they ripped or they pulled the sheet or they pulled it off the painting, the black covering off of it, he was standing there like, what could he do? He couldn't storm off. He couldn't take his pen and, right? He couldn't. But can you imagine what was happening for him on the inside? And I think, again, the artist is pretty clever in what they said about what the painting represented. And, we did that whole show, for those of you who've watched it, that's one of my favorite ones, where we talk about the whole process of the caterpillar not being the same as the butterfly in any way. The caterpillar has to be absorbed for the butterfly to come into existence, right? And so when the caterpillar is going into the chrysalis, the caterpillar disappears and all these enzymes get broken down. You have a completely different creature that is made from the things that the caterpillar was made from, but is not the same. So, caterpillar is a slow, veggie eating, kind of has to consume lots, can't go too fast. And then this monarch butterfly, and monarch, if you will, the literal and entendre meanings of that butterfly. And so when the artist painted that thing, it's like, yeah, the monarch butterfly can appear to be that color, but we know what else appears to be that color. And it is blood, if you will, allegedly, like when we bleed, and it is iron deficient blood that looks really red. If you have iron in the body, in your bloodstream, it is typically very like a darker shade of blood than, and for women we see different shades too. So anyway, the one, so that's why that picture looks like what Charles said he wanted to be for Camilla, right? Okay, so Kat Harlem is saying thumbs up this video. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah. So if you don't know what Charles said he wanted to be for Camilla, that was, look it up. And in those phone conversations that were being recorded, and he doesn't go against the and we all know the 7th grade, or not even 7th grade humor, maybe it's like 4th grade humor of BM, and you see the poop emoji for the British media, right? That's our thing in here now. So we all know what the British media, the people who represent them, they did in recording those conversations. And so now he's in league with the same organizations that paid paparazzi and did all of these things to get photographs of his his ex-wife, who passed away in a remarkable fashion that is horrific. And how can you be in league with these people, or allegedly, in the way that they've harmed your former partner and the mother of your children? Like, that's pretty unbearable, if you will, right? So Kat Harlem says 4 generations in that photo. Yes, right? And look at Queen Elizabeth, looks like she wants to hold that baby. Give me that baby. And Doria's like, look at what my daughter made, and this is my baby. I'm making sure everything's okay. And Harry's looking like, I'm so afraid I'm a papa now, and I'm nervous because I want to do a good job. And the grandfather's like, oh, Harry's baby, the baby's so cute. And I know he clearly saw the love between Meghan and Prince Harry. And so Queen Elizabeth wanted so much for Harry, and the fact that even you have to be so petty. Like, you're more petty than Kendrick Lamar at this point. If you're taking letters down that Harry wrote for his beloved when he was like, no more racism, you're literally taking that down. Because what? More racism, allegedly, right? We want more of that in the world, versus Harry pushing back against, oh, it naturally disappeared. Marshall says, Kitty Puss is complicit. She doesn't deserve to elicit my respect and care. She's only a brood mare whose service was clear. Did Willie I dig a ditch. To dump that. For his nose is smelling a rose. Ooh. Marsha, I'm speechless. Did you... Are you friends with Kendrick? Marsha, are you really out here just like, I hate the way that you walk, I hate the way you talk, I hate the way you dress. Oh my goodness, Marsha. Like, ooh. Yeah. When you come for me, Marsha. Gosh. Yeah. So you think she's complicit, Tell me what you really think. She doesn't. So she doesn't deserve to elicit your respect and care. She's only. Oof. Ooh. Whose service was clear? Did he? Ooh. Oh boy. Oh, I can't. That's what my daddy used to say. Oh boy. When somebody would say something like that, he'd just say, "Oh boy." So I'm gonna say that my pops would be like, "Oh boy." I said, "Oh boy, Marsha. Yeah, are you hanging out, or you watching, listening to Kendrick Lamar's music? 'Cause, man, I know she don't want it with you." So, yeah. Wow. I'm still like, oh, I haven't choked on it, but my goodness, you did that, Marsha. You did that. Her service was clear. We don't have any compassion for, like, at all. Because clearly, no, we don't. And so, yeah, anyway, so when we look at this photograph, thankfully it's Princess Duchess Meghan, and there was a whole lot that happened behind the scenes, and like when we saw those newspaper articles coming out about how much she missed her brother-in-law, that was all a little bit strange too. Like, of course she missed your brother-in-law, but the sister-in-law doesn't take precedence over the wife in most cases. So I was just like, okay, that's a little bit weird that they're focusing on that, but there's always an angle, and I get there's going to continue to be an angle. And so we are going to have to continue doing what we've been doing out here in these Sussex Squad streets by protecting our faves and by loving on them and letting them know that we see the emotional violence that's perpetrated against them and that we are going to be standing up for them so that they can continue to do the work that they need to do, because the BM doesn't represent anybody over here for the most part. I mean, we see a little bit in our media, but the BM doesn't represent. And so us, for most people in this country and in other countries around the world, they get to put their tabloids out there, and we see the damage that they've caused in the life of Harry for years and years and years. So Marshar says, all poems are mine made up on the spot. Oh my goodness. I resubmitted 3 times and changed some of the wording, but kept the same rhyme. So we'll see if it comes through this time. I posted it before this comment. Yeah, I saw it. I saw you did that. You definitely, like, don't come for me, Marshar, please. Because I don't think I'll have time for those kind of lyrics. Like, oh my goodness. Whew. And we need you. Like, we need for people to be in the squad who can bring that, because everybody doesn't respond to, what anybody brings. And so if we need somebody to be able to spill like Kendrick and just like on the spot be able to read, bam, I got you. You got us. We know who is going to be able to have that comeback. And comebacks and clapbacks feel good. Like, sometimes we use a lot of energy trying to say a thing without being offensive, and sometimes it's necessary to just... Some people don't understand that language. They're not formed enough to understand that, and so, okay, so Marshar can explain it to them in a way that they will understand and probably will not be... we saw that. We talked about that, guys. Remember this week we talked about Jasmine Crockett and what Jasmine Crockett with the 6 B's came with. And, you say 6 B's, you're like, oh, that already sounds bad, the 6 B's. But when she said bleach blonde, bad built, butch body, and it was just like, what did she say? Let's see. All poems. Okay, wait. I thought I saw something else. So yeah, we saw Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, get read for, some people would say, filth. That was last week in Congress, and yeah, Jasmine Crockett made that up on the spot, and now she has to live with that thing existing out there in the universe for the rest of her life, and she can't do anything about it. Let's see. I tell all derangers and deplorables not to come for me. Yes, I would not come for you, Marshall. I would not send for you. I would not come for you unless I needed help out here in these Sussex streets. And you know what it's like, because you are like a day one. You've been here in the squad doing this work. You have put your time in. You deserve all the accolades. And you definitely help. You help us to be able to control the space in a way that, and if I say it out loud, here they come. But we haven't had to deal with a lot of that lately. And I think that credit partially goes to you, because nobody wants for you to come for them, I think. And so anyway, I'm going to get ready to close here for the day. So we had our first podcast interrupted, and I thought, let me come back and at least finish some of the work that I started doing this morning and get to the things that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted also, for you guys to, I just wanted to be with you for a while too. So I didn't get to sit with you long enough earlier today. And so now I want to be able to sit with you for a while, because it does feel good to be able to be shored up by the squad. So as we end this session, I just want to say thank you to everyone who showed up, and I hope you come back again. I get so much, and I hope you're getting something, at least a few things. And again, if you appreciate the content, please please subscribe. And I know I don't always say that. I just sort of think it's, something that exists out there, so I forget to say it. I get so caught up in just hanging out with you guys. So Carla says, Marshar, you're good. I just ignore the derangers. Yeah, Marshar don't mind, and she's got time. So we thank you, Carla. We thank Marshar. We thank Novi. We thank Go Taste and See, all the people who, Kat Harlem, all the people who've been in the chat and who don't want to say anything but prefer to just sit back and chill. I say thank you to all of you. So I am going to say good night, and I want you guys to all get some good rest. Take care of yourselves, and I think I will be on in the morning around 9 Pacific tomorrow. As long as there are no unforeseen circumstances. So again, you guys, thank you so much for showing up, and I will see you next time. All right? Take care. Ciao.